Hi everyone, today is Wednesday, March 15th, 2023, and I'm back. So it's been a minute since I've made an update after I was admitted into the hospital on February 27th. I did do a previous video kind of explaining what happened. My water broke at night on a Monday, and I ended up having to go into the hospital. And today I want to talk about my birth experience. So everything happened pretty quickly. When I was admitted into the hospital on Monday, I didn't really know what to expect. I was praying and asking God for our little one to stay in my womb for as long as possible. I was hoping for at least a month. I didn't want my baby to come out too prematurely. But after Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday came around, and then Friday came. Friday night, my husband and I had just eaten dinner, and we were sitting in the hospital room. I'm sitting on my bed, and I felt this contraction, and it was an early labor contraction. At the moment, I didn't realize I was having an early labor contraction. It felt like a cramp, and I was like, okay, I haven't had any cramps since I've been in the hospital, so that's interesting. And I looked at the clock, and I just on the wall behind me, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna look and see how long this is going to last. It lasted for about a minute, and then it went away, and I'm sitting on the bed, and I'm like, okay. I told my husband, I'm like, I just had a cramp that lasted a minute. And then 5 minutes goes by, we're sitting there talking. My husband was wanting to order more food because we were both hungry, and he decides to make a call, order some food. 5 minutes later, after the first cramp that I had, I felt another one. And I look at my husband, and I'm like, there goes another one. And then I looked at the clock, and I started to time that one. That one was also a minute long. So once I realized that I just had two, I knew they were contractions at that point because they were both a minute long, 5 minutes apart. I'm like, this is starting. I'm starting early labor. And I didn't say anything to my husband. I just told him I was having cramps. And by the third one, the nurse had come into the room. And when she came in, I told her, I said, I just had 3 cramps. And all of them were a minute long and about 5 minutes apart. And she kind of looks at me and she's like, okay, like, what was the intensity? How did it feel? Can you rate how intense and how painful they were? And I just kind of look at her and I'm like, they're like a 3. I told her I don't really have much to compare it to because I don't really get period cramps, and my period cramps are so mild, they don't really hurt. It's just uncomfortable couple days when I'm on my period. So I said, I mean, these are a little more intense than my period cramps, but I'd probably say they're like a 3. I don't feel, they're not painful to me, at least. So she's like, okay, well, just let me know. I told her I was going to, she said, just let her know if I continue to have them and how long they are and how far apart they are. She would just come back in and periodically check on me. So I pulled out my phone and I tracked the first 3. And then while she was in the room before she left, she decided to hook me up to these monitors. So she hooked me up to a monitor to just kind of check the baby's heartbeat, and then one to check for contractions. So I'm hooked up to these monitors. I'm sitting on the bed. My husband's looking at me like, what's going on? And so every time another one would happen, I would tell my husband and I would track it. And then eventually there were so many, I just decided I needed to pull out my phone, download an app, and just use an app and let it time it for me. So I'm sitting there and the nurse is coming back in periodically. I'm telling her how many I've had. She's looking at, what I'm recording, and she's finally, after about an hour, she's like, you know what? I'm gonna call your doctor. See what she wants to do, find out if she wants to come in, and I'll follow up with you. So she left out of the room, and then I just continued to track them. The nurse would come back in. She was still trying to get a hold of my doctor. She wasn't able to get a hold of her right away. So while she's waiting for her to call back, she just continued to come in, and I would tell her, and she would ask me, how do they feel? And I'm like, I feel fine, like everything's okay. So honestly, like, I knew I was in early labor, but it didn't really click to me like what was about to happen. Like, I'm actually going to have my baby now. Like, this is happening. My husband wasn't there either. Like, he was kind of looking at me and asking me, was it something I ate? Maybe I should lie down. And he was pretty much in denial, and I think because he was sold on the fact that he really wanted our baby to come later. we were both just like, we don't want our baby to come too early. We're just praying and asking God to delay as long as possible. But after an hour and a half had gone by and it was like 9 o'clock, and I was still having these early labor contractions, very mild. All of a sudden, I'm sitting on the bed and I felt one really intense one. And I think it lasted longer than a minute. I don't remember how long it lasted. And I just remember it was so intense. I could feel it through my whole body. I felt very warm. I felt nauseous. And I just had this intense urge to get off the bed. So I looked at my husband and I'm like, this is really intense. I need you to take all these monitors, help me get out of these monitors, get them off of me. And he's like, are you sure you should do that? I'm like, yes, get over here and help me get these monitors off my body. So he comes over, helps me unplug, and I stand up because I really just wanted to stand up. And then I'm like, okay, that was intense. So I went into the bathroom and I just sat down on the toilet as I'm still like going through this contraction. I want to say it maybe lasted about 5 minutes. And I'm sitting on the toilet, and as soon as I sat on the toilet, it clicked that for me, like, I knew I was in early labor, but then it clicked that I was in active labor and I was about to have my baby. So I'm sitting on the toilet and I'm clutching on to this rail that they had next to the toilet. So I'm holding on to this and I'm breathing through it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is not that it was painful, but it was just an intense feeling. And I remember my husband coming into the bathroom, and I kind of like lifted up and I was looking down into the toilet, and I could see like a little bit of blood dripping, like really light, pale, pinkish blood dripping into the toilet. And it kind of had like I don't know how to describe it. It was very tissuey looking. And my husband sees it. He goes, are you making that happen? Are you forcing that out? And I looked at him and I'm like, no, I'm not doing any of this. I have no control over anything that's happening right now. And I started getting upset and getting emotional. And then he like kind of walks out of the bathroom and to go cancel his order. I thought he was just leaving me because I was being like really emotional and kind of snippy at him. So then the contraction stops and I start to breathe, and I'm like, I feel when the contractions stop, you really do have this sense of just relief and calm. And it's like, oh, okay, that's over. Then my husband comes back to the bathroom and I have my second contraction, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, I suddenly got this panicky feeling, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know what's about. I know I'm about to have a baby, and I don't know what it's going to feel like. And I'm nervous. Like, I'm really nervous right now because this is my first time and I don't know what to expect. Like, I knew what to expect because I had watched a lot of videos and I had done a lot of research and I had been to birthing classes. But I think for a moment I became a little bit afraid of the pain. And I look at my husband and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And he looks at me and he goes, you're already doing it, honey. And at that moment, he was on the same page as me. I felt like, okay, now he realizes I'm actually in labor. And so that second contraction was still like happening, and I just felt this groan come out of me. And when that happened, when this like intense groan came out of me and I like was clutching on to the rail, that handrail, I was like, oh my gosh. Everything just washed over me. I got even more hot and I felt like more nauseous, and then I felt this intense need to bear down. And as soon as that happened, I felt my baby crowning. Suddenly I just felt it, and I'm like, I didn't say anything. I just kind of looked at my husband and he's looking at me, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't remember if I told him to go push the button to have the nurse come in, but I think I might have told him like, go push that button, get the nurses in here. And he may have gone to do that, or the nurses were just coming in. And right after that happened, my third contraction was starting, because there was a moment of like relief. And then by the time the nurses came in, I was already having my third contraction. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting on the toilet. I don't want to have my baby in the toilet. So I basically just kind of like, I'm like, it's hard because your body kind of just takes over when you have that need to bear down, and you can kind of control it, but then you kind of can't. So as the nurses were coming in, they were looking at me on the toilet, and the nurse looks and goes, can you like get up and come to the bed? So I clench everything, and I scoot with everything clenched. I'm scooting over to the bed, and for a split second, I almost thought to myself, you know what? If they can come over behind me, I could just push this baby out because he's already there. He's there. But I'm like, you know what? It's early. I'm thinking all my thoughts are happening fast. So I'm thinking all of this like really quickly, and I'm like, okay, I should just get in the bed because this is a premature baby. I don't know what can happen. My doctor's not even here yet. So I went and I got on the bed, was lying down, and the nurse was like, just open your legs. I'm just gonna check. And I'm thinking like in my head, check what? The baby's head is right there. So I open my legs and she looks and she goes, I see the baby's head. And then one of the nurses presses a button and the room fills with people. Like, there's so many people in the room, and I am having another contraction and I'm groaning. My husband comes over quickly. He grabs my hand. He's just the sweetest, telling me to breathe slow, and he's just instructed me on breathing. Phenomenal. Just like, my husband did so great, and I just focused on his voice while he's telling me to breathe, and the nurses are also doing the same thing, and the nurses are encouraging me, telling me I'm doing a good job. So I'm focusing on that, their voices, my husband's voice, and I have my eyes partially closed. I mean, I can still see like everything that was going on, but I kind of just was mentally, I checked out, I guess you could say. And everything just happened so quickly. Like, I remember having another contraction, and that one was like a push. Like, I felt a push. Like, my body just took over. One push. And then there was a sense of relief, and I kind of like relaxed into that and kept breathing. And then when the next push came, my body took over again, and I just let it happen. And my husband's telling me just to breathe because, you know, I'm kind of lifting up off the bed, and I'm just like squeezing his hand because it's intense. It's not painful, but it was just really intense. And then the third push happened, and that's when my baby came out, and he came out so quickly onto the bed. I don't even think the nurse was able to catch him. He just went right out, and I saw it, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And once he came out, it was like this really good feeling of him when he came out. It just felt good, and it was like relaxing. Like, I just felt this wave of just like calm and peace, and like like it's done, like it's finished, he's here. And so everybody rushed. They grabbed the baby. I didn't get to hold him, unfortunately. They put him in his little I don't know what you call it, the little hospital bassinet, and they were like getting him hooked up with tubes, and the nurse grabbed my phone to take pictures for me, and I'm just lying there, just kind of like, you know, everything just happened so quickly, and I'm just trying to like, I don't know, absorb what just happened. And then I'm like, oh, what did we have? And the nurse, I really originally wanted my husband to say what we were having, but everything was going on so quickly, and it was fine. The nurse yells out, it's a boy. And I don't know if I mentioned this in any of my previous videos, but I had known that I was having a boy since March of last year. And I had a dream about my husband and I, about our future baby. And I dreamt that we were having a boy. And then after that, I had 2 more dreams. So I always knew that it was going to be a boy. We never found out from any ultrasounds. We wanted to be surprised, and really the only way it would have been a surprise is if we had a girl. So I wasn't surprised when they said it's a boy. So I was happy. I'm like, yeah, you know, my dreams were right. We had a boy. So that was great, and he's doing amazing, guys. He's just doing amazing for a 28-weeker. And what's crazy and phenomenal is he's born 28 weeks, 4 pounds, 10 ounces, 15 inches in length. And I was also born at 28 weeks. I was 2 pounds, 10 ounces, and 15 inches, exactly the same as him. I don't know what 28 weeks and how many days for me or him, or for me, but he was 28 weeks and 5 days. But I don't really know what I was. I ended up looking at my baby book because my mom, she always told me I was 2 pounds, 6 ounces. But when I got my baby book and looked, I'm like, this is exactly as him. So it's like I birthed myself, a male version of myself. So that was pretty cool, is to find that out, that we were exactly the same. But he is a little rock star in the NICU. He's doing amazing. He came out breathing room air. So I thank God for that. You know, I think also to me being able to birth him naturally, have vaginal birth. I wasn't on any meds, any medicated meds or anything as far as like, what do you call it? I didn't have, I wasn't on anything, so I had an unmedicated birth, which was fantastic. I mean, at least I got that, a natural unmedicated birth. That's what I always wanted. It wasn't too painful, but anyway, my son, we named him Alexander John, and he is doing, like I said, amazing. Everyone is impressed by him. He is the cutest little thing. My heart, every time I look at him, I'm just like, I can't believe you would still be in my womb right now. You are just precious, and I love him so much. Like, he's just a joy, and even though he came early and that's not what we wanted, I am extremely happy he's here and extremely blessed that he's doing well. There's no problems. Like I said, he's breathing room air. They do have him hooked up to a, well, originally he was on the CPAP, very, very low amount, and then they moved him to a high flow nasal cannula. That's also very low. It's like at a 4. They want to lower it again. So he's doing great. He's got no health problems. There's nothing wrong with him. I couldn't be any more happy. My husband is happy as well. We are just over the moon, overjoyed, in love with this little boy. And I just wanted to share my birth story. I will probably share more about him in another video and just kind of keep you guys updated what it's like being a mom of a micro preemie and what it's like having to go back and forth from home to the NICU, just how I'm handling things, advice and tips I have for other moms who are experiencing the same thing, because it's wild. It's very wild, and it's quite a journey. And I believe that God chose me to be this little boy's mom and for him to come early. And this experience is something that is a huge testimony in my life, in his little life, in my husband's life, and I'm just happy to be able to share it. I've been telling a lot of people about, you know, my birth story, and yeah, everyone is impressed, especially the doctors and nurses. They're just like, we can't believe how well he's doing. Like, he's really more mature for his age than he should be. I have to say, yeah, I'm super happy. But again, I'll be back. I will probably share more, definitely. I want to talk about my postpartum experience after having my son. I think that's important. I do want to document that. And again, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.